January the 23rd. It's primary day in New Hampshire, so let's go back in time to when Europe had a head-on collision with the Americas, mainly because what's there to say to the Republican primary? Presented with a binary choice between Trump and Haley, I would write in Liz Cheney. It's not because I agree with her on a single policy issue, but it's in dialogue that we push us to do better and be better. The exchange of arguments, the confrontation of the other with a changed environment is the root of evolution. Authoritarians believe in only one truth, and that's they already got it. They want to keep humans from what they have been evolved to do, using their brains. And that brings me inevitably to head-on collision between different realities in history. On the one side, Europe ruled by kings who based their right to power on their position as the one chosen by God, who was the creator. Along the same lines, everyone else's station in life was explained as well. Challenging the order equaled questioning God, a crime punishable by death. On the other side, the indigenous people of America. For purposes of explanation, I will generalize here a bit because the forms of their social orders were as numerous as were their tribes and people. In the Pacific Northwest, for example, known even today for its art and especially for masks, one tribe changed their social order along with their names by the season, hierarchical during one, egalitarian during the other. But one thing to notice is that the indigenous people saw individual autonomy and freedom of action as consummate values. They came up with stories to organize their cooperation that minimized any possibility of one human being becoming subordinate to the will of another. Everyone who wanted members of their tribe to follow them had to convince them with arguments, every time. As expected, this clash led to discussions about the nature of authority, decency, social responsibility, and, above all, freedom. A tiny sidebar is necessary here because freedoms have become a hot-button issue. One thing that indigenous people understood what had been lost on many today, we are talking here about the organization of society, individuals in a group. In such a setting, a freedom always comes with a duty to respect and favor the same freedom for the other. In other words, exploiting your freedom will have direct consequences, and they might not always be pleasant for you. While some, like the Jesuits, condemned the principle of freedom outright, the debating public had grown wider as literacy has spread. Books containing traveling reports, and in particular a sort of book reporting on criticism voiced by indigenous thinkers, flew off its shelves. Between 1703 and 1751, these arguments had an enormous impact. The authorities, in other words, the stories used to enable cooperation, were challenged. Medieval certainties of superiority were questioned, new ideas about different ways to organize life bloomed, and the perception of reality began to shift and reveal unknown possibilities. And then came a guy called Turgot. He argued that the freedom of equality of savages was not a sign of their superiority, but a sign of their inferiority, since it is only possible in a society where each household is largely self-sufficient and therefore where everyone is equally poor. As societies evolve, technologies advanced, natural differences in talents and capacities between individuals become more significant, and eventually they form the basis for an ever more complex division of labor. Meaning to say that humankind progresses from simple societies to the European-style complex commercial civilizations in which poverty and dispossession of some is the necessary condition for the prosperity of society as a whole. Does this theory of the primacy of technological progress as the driver for overall social improvement sound familiar to you, along with the four stages of economic development, from hunter-gatherer to pastoralism to farming to urban commercial civilization? It's because it's still used today, and much of our perception of reality is governed by it. The thing is, it's not an immutable law based on facts and evidence as it is treated. it is a story. And in this case, it's a story developed to defend an existing story in order to salvage what could be salvaged. The defense is rigorous, so rigorous even today that many people feel stuck. I think this is an expression of that we don't find in the groundswell of information now hitting us daily, the information we are really looking for. And this is a lot because we are taught now not to ask the questions we instinctively want to explore because we are humans. This is one of the reasons I now realize why I hate the distinction between kitchen table issues and questions of social order of the social order we live in, the story that shapes our perception so much. People are constantly told they don't care about anything outside the confines of our imaginary order, mainly money, and if they don't do, there's something wrong with them. So back to the primaries in New Hampshire and also the general election. What we have lost is the power to reconceptualize the society we want to live in. The power collectively to decide to do things differently, the ability to understand that reality is a question of perception and that perceptions can be changed by us through thinking. So make a habit of thinking. Find your questions.